The Way to Freedom, Murdo MacDonald-Bayne. The vast panorama of nature is being constantly changed by the change in the rate of vibration. The same process is taking place in our own minds and bodies, usually unconsciously, according to the prevailing mental attitude we maintain. That is why it is so essential that we become aware of our mental attitude, always aware, noting the kind of desires, emotions, and thoughts we entertain. If we become lost in our mental attitude, we are incapable of strict examination, and the result we blame on others. This only adds coal to the fire we have kindled ourselves. If we maintain a grudge towards someone or some condition, or if steeped in superstition, we are incapable of deeply discerning our mental attitude, the vibrations set up within are being expressed in our lives, in our bodies and our circumstances. When these conditions become manifest, unaware that the cause is within, we seek outside for a cure, with the result that we never find it, for the cure must come from within ourselves. We read books with the idea that this will relieve us. Everything we do with the idea of ridding ourselves of our trouble. We read our trouble into every kind of literature we can lay our hands on. We may seek relief from others who are as ignorant as ourselves as regards the cause of our trouble, and who often advise us to read certain books, with the result that we are very little, if any, better off than before, only to become more confused, for we substitute one cage for another. Little do we realize that it is life that is seeking freedom from this confusion. Many truth students are moribund with affirmations and are not enlightened regarding the real truth of the real way to the freedom of life. They keep on repeating words and phrases. A temporary relief may be obtained, but it is only temporary, and many have found this out to be true. Life itself is free and natural. It is the true expression of the infinite mind in the finite mind. If the finite mind is not aware this, we create beliefs, build images in our minds in regard to what our beliefs represent. We put life into one cage after another. This only produces for us experiences which are contrary to our true nature, and then we rebel. We seek outside ourselves for some relief, so we ask others for the bread of life, but we are given a stone. We may accept what we are given, but soon we find we have just substituted one cage for another, so life goes on in the continual seeking for freedom. We carry our conditions around with us. We present them to this specialist, that specialist, this psychologist, or that. Some specialists will give it a name, others will say, "I cannot find anything organically wrong with you, it is in your mind." The first has added to the harm already done by identifying the condition with other conditions which are known in our world of ignorance, with the result that we believe that all other aid is futile and resign ourselves to a life of misery. What the second says is partly the truth, but gives little relief to a person who knows and suffers agony with no means of eliminating the condition. So we wander along to a psychologist who looks into our minds, mistaking effects for causes, trying to find this cause, and if the cause is found, this ends the matter. Still, we are just as bad as before, because when one devil is released without putting in the truth, 7 other devils may take its place. So we try truth teachers, and some say, "Now I will give you some books to read." So we read our troubles into the books and become more confused. Another will say, "You do not give enough. Open your purse and give, and you will be free." But this is just exploitation of the ignorant who suffer, and when we do give, we find ourselves with less, materially, but just the same in regard to our trouble. This is exploitation in its worst form, and many people are bluffed by it. But the poor sufferers still have their cages. Some may give us phrases to repeat, but this is just another form of mental hypnosis which wills us into a false feeling of security from which we must eventually awake. I hope you see the point I am driving at. It is the freedom of life, and life can only be free when the individual frees him or herself by knowing the truth about themselves, by discerning that which is not true and disposing of it as we would an old coat, and recognizing then our inner reality and freeing it from all its cages, no matter what they may be, religious or otherwise. Error produces error, beliefs produce only beliefs. You cannot substitute one error for another error, or one belief for another belief. Life does not need any of these things. It is free and wants that freedom of expression that is seen in the little child, for such as these make up the kingdom of heaven, the kingdom of freedom. If we are uncertain of our own judgment, we instantly resort to authority and tradition. This has the effect of weakening our capacity for judgment and defrauds it of its true aim. What we need is to become more and more impersonal so that judgment becomes freed from entanglements. To become strong and free must not appeal to authority outside ourselves. We must take sole responsibility for all we do, then we begin to rely upon ourselves. We must not run away from suffering, we must know what it is, then we shall be free from it, and this can only be done by a process of impersonal progressive discernment, and when we establish that impersonal outlook in ourselves we will find that we will no longer cling to authority and tradition, which are cages in which we live. Most people are imitators. They live on second-hand ideas for the fulfillment of life. People of the same type gather together. You will notice that the greater the mass, the greater the ignorance, because they have the same outlook. It is only the few who will get down to self-development, that is the only way to realize life's purpose. The majority think that life's purpose is sleeping, working for material gain, eating and having plenty of amusements to drown the suffering that it brings. The next group are those who seek relief through religion of some kind. So the great spiritual thing in life is standardized and the individual is smothered. The individual is taught to want and to give, but this is always a going away from oneself. It is our being we have to recognize. This is the only positive thing in us and this is what everyone is seeking. To obtain it we must not depend on external things. Our wanting or giving are personal things and have nothing to do with truth. The majority try to buy themselves into heaven. When we enter into this being which is, we become the sunshine in which all things grow, and in this being we will find that there is nothing which is evil or good, bad, or indifferent, for these are relative things and we are not the subjective reality we are seeking. These things are made in man's ignorance of his true nature. We create the vibration and this produces the condition we ourselves rebel against. This knowledge is of priceless value and by applying it we shall know what we can do. We will realize that our present physical condition and environment is the result of our thinking. Our errors are externalized by the power of the thought they engender, therefore we must examine our method of thinking. We must remember that every thought attracts its kind and produces the vibration which we see manifested on the screen of our lives. To make a mental picture of physical perfection is not enough. There must be a discerning of the motives and thoughts that cause these conditions, otherwise we will not be free. The mental attitude which we hold will keep expressing itself in the subconscious and will show itself in the objective, sooner or later. We may hold a picture of the perfect physical, but if the mental attitude towards others and life in general is distorted, then we shall not be free. The old conditions will keep cropping up from time to time. We must rid ourselves of all these things by deep discernment. By this method thousands have destroyed all manner of physical and mental disturbances in a few days and sometimes in a few minutes. Benediction. O infinite splendor, thy call has come to me to awaken myself. In my sleeping mind I heard thee whispering to me. Where I am, behold, thou art there also. Since then thy whisper has been constantly working through my soul and body. And now I am working with thee through living eternity. O mighty one, I am thy trumpet so that all may hear thy voice and awaken with this true knowledge. When my earthly voice can whisper no more, I will still whisper through thee so that thy voice will be heard by every soul, O infinite splendor. My peace and my love remain with you. Yours sincerely, 𝗦 MacDonald-Bayne.